Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. It's a little cold, but boy, does that sun look good this morning. What a beautiful representation of God's presence in our life. And so we are thrilled to be able to be here and celebrate, to worship, to challenge ourselves to be better followers of Jesus in this time and in this place. I have a list of announcements. Excuse me. I do, right here. First thing I want to say before I get to any of this is a huge thank you to all the people who worked yesterday, who came out yesterday for Empty Bowls. It was a huge success. It was wonderful to be working with even more organizations this year, and they took on a huge portion of it. So we are slowly realizing our vision. Our vision was always that we would incubate this event and then slowly pass it on to the community of potters, other potters, real potters, right? Anyway, it was a huge success, so thank you to all who helped out with that event. I'll have figures for you, exact figures for you, hopefully next week, but it looks like we just about doubled what we're going to be able to contribute from the last time we did this, so thank you. Today, if you would like to sit and join us at around 11:30-ish, we're going to have a council meeting, and so that'll just be in the back of the church when everybody's done with coffee and all of that stuff. March 22nd, this Wednesday, we have Safe Space Group, of course, and that's at 6 o'clock. At 6:30, we have a gathering for parents, family, and friends of LGBTQIA plus folk, and that meets right here at the tables in the back of the sanctuary. And then Tai Chi Fit is at 6 also. Today is the day that we take in our 1 great hour of sharing, and so 1 great hour of sharing is that offering that we give to the national office and they distribute to places in need of extra funds. If you should have been offered an envelope as you came in to make that offering, if you did not, you can raise your hand right now and Julie will give you an envelope. So, there we go. We are small when we combine our resources with those of other UCC churches. We can do big things. So that's what this is all about. Put on your calendar March 29th. It's a Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock p.m. On the 5th Wednesday, when there is a 5th Wednesday, we have a gathering. So it's fun-filled 5th Wednesday on March 29th. And we are just going to gather here at the church and have board games and pizza in the fellowship hall. So please come on out and just have a good, relaxing time. Yes?
There's no time listed.
It's at 6 o'clock p.m. Sorry. Yeah. 6 o'clock p.m. Thanks for asking. Are there any other announcements that need to be made this morning?
After church, I have all the bowls from yesterday's event in the back of my car. So if we have, I think there's only 6, maybe 8 boxes. So if we have some helpers to bring them up in the education building, that would be helpful.
If you didn't hear that, if there are people who can help move boxes of bowls, we have about 6 to 8 boxes of bowls left. And they have to go up into a room on the 2nd floor in the other building. I also have leftover water in my car if anybody wants to grab some of that. So many hands make light work. It means one person might have to take 2 boxes instead of one person doing 8, right? So please just see. Tracy. Anything else? If not, I'm going to invite you to just pause for a moment Take a deep breath and remember who it is we are here to connect with this morning.
There's a voice strong and clear, ringing out far and near. Let justice roll down. Let justice roll down. Like the rush of a stream comes a powerful dream. Let justice roll down. Justice roll down. Roll down. Roll down. Justice roll like an ever-flowing stream. Roll down, justice, roll like an ever-rolling stream, rolling stream, roll down.
Jesus consistently chooses love. When it would be easier for him to appease the powerful religious leaders and Roman-backed authorities, he chooses love. Even as his friends disappear and the crowds that once shouted, Hosanna, turn on him with shouts of crucify, he chooses love. Even after betrayal and humiliation, even when he is dying, he chooses love. Would you please stand and join me in the call to worship? Holy and living God, to choose you is to choose love.
May peace flow, let justice roll.
Nudge us toward the reconciliation that ushers in right relationship.
May peace flow, let justice roll.
Forgive us our debts as we forgive those who trespass against us.
May peace flow, let justice roll. Roll down, justice, roll like an
begins with John chapter 9, verses 1 through 7. As he walked along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "Neither this man nor his parents sinned. He was born blind so that God's works might be revealed in him. We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world." When he had said this, he spat on the ground and made mud with the saliva and spread the mud on the man's eyes, saying to him, "Go, wash in the pool of Siloam," which means sent. Then he went and washed and came back, able to see.
Each time someone is baptized, the whole church body gathered makes vows. One of the things we promise is to be a community of love and forgiveness. Each day we must choose between letting the difficult things of life create resentment in us or allowing the work of forgiveness to make way for love. Our Song of Justice this week, which will be played later, was written as a response to a modern-day act of forgiveness by African-American church in Charleston, South Carolina, after the tragic shooting of members of their Bible study group. We are reminded of the power of Jesus' forgiveness, even on the cross.
Our reading continues in Luke chapter 23, verses 32 through 43. They also led 2 other criminals to be executed with Jesus. When they arrived at the place called the Skull, they crucified him along with the criminals, one on his right and the other on his left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing." They drew lots, and as a way of dividing up his clothing. The people were standing around watching, but the leaders sneered at him, saying, "He saved others. Let him save himself if he really is the Christ sent from God, the chosen one." The soldiers also mocked him. They came up to him, offering him sour wine and saying, "If you really are the King of Jews, save yourself." Above his head was a notice of the formal charge against him. It read, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals hanging next to Jesus insulted him, "Aren't you the Christ? Save yourself and us." Responding, the other criminal spoke harshly to him, "Don't you fear God, seeing that you've also been sentenced to die? We are rightly condemned, for we are receiving the appropriate sentence for what we did. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said to Jesus, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus replied, "I assure you that today you will be with me in paradise." Take a deep breath and hear this prayer, Rock of Ages by Bishop Latrell Miller Easterling. When there is no other place of refuge, when violence awaits every move and evil lurks in the shadowy places, there is yet a hiding place in you. As forces conspire to press in from the east and the west, the north and the south, your guiding presence leads us to shelter in the quiet center. The weary find rest in your being, the distraught a source of renewed hope. Those who are about to succumb gain fresh strength in your sheltering hand. The storm passes, the winds cease, evil flees, darkness vanishes. And those whom you have covered will rise with the dawn, and those whom you have covered will triumphantly rise. Amen.
Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents? Rabbi, who sinned? Why do we have this obsession with needing to assign blame? With needing for somebody to have done something wrong, to explain anything painful, anything bad that happens in the world? Why do we need to cling to that? we're talking about forgiveness. And forgiveness is a tricky thing. All the psychologists are starting to talk about it, right? And who's it for, all of that stuff. Well, as I was thinking about this, I remembered that there was a book on my queue to read, to listen to. It's called Unoffendable by Brent Hansen. I don't know if any of you have heard of this. I haven't. I saw somebody talk about it. Unoffendable by Brent Hansen. And he starts the book in the very first chapter talking about this thing that happened to him in the parking lot. So he's coming into the parking lot and about to pull into a spot and somebody grabs it ahead of him. What's the first thing that goes into his mind? You jerk. What'd you do that for, right? I mean, the thought couldn't be there are two of us going for the same spot and he happened to get it first. No, you jerk, you cut me off. He said it wasn't until the following week, same parking lot, he was where the other car had been, going to take that spot, and he took it. And he looked at the other guy and he still said, you jerk, right? We have this need to center our pain on somebody else, to blame somebody else, we always see ourselves as the hero in the story, right? I do it all the time when I'm driving. I know I do. It's like a thought that just comes into my head. Oh, things did not go the way I wanted them to, therefore somebody else must be to blame. It's a gut reaction. But is it something we have to hang on to for forever? Do we have to be the person that follows that car down the road wanting to cut them off if they cut us off in traffic, right? Because on my worst days, I've had that impulse too. I have to get even. I have to, and it's like something in me that wants to just hang on and hang on and hang on and fix this angst that I have put in myself. So I'm going to talk about a couple other things from this book. One of the things that he talks about is he would like to strike from the English language the phrase, I can't believe somebody would do that. How many times have you said, I can't believe somebody would do that? He said, okay, really? You can't believe that? Really? You've looked at all of human history and you can't believe somebody would do that? Wars, pestilence, wars, lions' dens, and the whole crusade, the whole human history is people doing that. But what are we talking about really? I don't want to believe I would do that. Isn't that really the phrase that we're saying without saying it? Don't we need to demonize someone else because we don't want to believe that we are human like everybody else? We don't want to believe we could ever get to that point of anger. We don't want to believe we could ever get to that point of resentment. But I'm not so sure that given one thing in the history of humanity, if I really am honest with myself, that I couldn't get to that place of anger and resentment. Even the most evil thing that goes on in this world. I've watched what medications can do to somebody to completely flip their personality from one thing to another. I've watched the gentlest person in a hospital bed throwing things across the room at a nurse. because the meds were off, right? So one little flip in me, could I get to be the most evil, the most cruel person on earth? I don't know that I couldn't. I don't know that any of us couldn't. If my family was being threatened, what would I be willing to do to save them? I'm not sure that I know. If I had been raised in a family that was not like mine, if I had been raised in a basement in a cage, and we don't want to, I can't believe somebody would do that, but somebody does. We don't know what anybody else is walking in this world. We don't know how it affects their minds. We don't know how it affects their hearts. We don't know how hard it is to crawl out of the anger and resentment that has to just live in every cell of your body if you've been through the worst of the worst. But we're the hero in our own story. We don't want to believe we can ever be there, so every time we're angry, every time we're hurt, every time we are afraid, we cling to that. And another thing that Brent Hansen reminds in this book, Unoffendable, is that anger, fear, all of those things are emotions. They are not supposed to be the point of your existence. You're not supposed to hold on to them. And Brent would say it's not ours to hold, it is God's to hold, that anger. Not ours. It's an emotion. Notice it. Decide what you're going to do with it. Are you going to use it as a catalyst to be more loving, more compassionate, more caring in this world? Or are you going to hang on to it? And so I think of those road rage incidents. I think of arguments with my family or my friends. I think of arguments with somebody on the street or somebody who is at an event I'm at and they start railing and I'm disagreeing with them. And I think about how often I have held on to that, as if I needed desperately to respond in some way. In that moment that we had the conflict, I had a choice, and I could choose to hang on to it and let it roil in my heart and my gut and my head for sometimes a week. I don't know if any of you, the rest of you are like that, but I can let it roll for a week, right? Gotta fix this, I'm mad, I'm angry about this, and I held on. And what did that do for me? What did that do for me? What does it do for any of us to hold on to that anger? What if I had instead stopped and said, boy, maybe that person's having a bad day. Or, that's an interesting perspective, maybe I'm wrong. And then let it go. And gone on with my life and gone out to coffee with a friend and maybe watched a fun movie on television or something that would fill me. Maybe what if I took a walk and just say, wow, look at the beauty of God's creation. What if I had done that instead of sitting and stewing? What would my life have been like in that moment for that week that I was stewing? Forgiveness is for everybody. It's not just for me, it's not just for the person who has offended me, it's for everybody. It makes for a better world. It makes for less people going around the world grumping and hanging on. Because it's not ours to judge either. Scripture says that to us time and time and time again. It's not ours to judge. It's not ours to hang on to that anger. Can anger be a catalyst to move us to change something that's unjust? Yes. But not if we just stew in the anger. Right? If we never get to the solution, if we never get to the negotiating with the people with whom we're angry, it just festers like a big old boil under our skin. And so another path, another choice this Lent is to choose forgiveness, to choose to be in this place as a church, a place of forgiveness. Because churches are, we've all heard it. We've all heard it. Somebody offended me in the kitchen, and so I'm leaving the church, right? How many of you have heard it? Come on. Right. We are a church, we are a community filled with human beings, with all of the beauty and all of the struggle of being human. And the more we can let it go and say, I wonder if so-and-so is having a bad day today, the better we will all be. Any thoughts to be shared this morning? Beyond my ranting.
Well, it kind of seems to me like with anger that when one experiences that, the question is, what is it that, let me just go ahead. The question is, why am I angry? I mean, you need to look inside rather than just project outside. Anger is a very protective kind of emotion for all of us. And to project is very easy, to blame someone else, of course. But to take a look and say, how come I'm feeling this? You know, that's the question. You know, you take it with the parking lot example. An awful lot of people, if you saw two people coming to a thing, many people would say, go ahead and help yourself. You know, that's how they would respond. And so they've learned a different tactic for dealing with, quotes, competition.
Yeah, that's the Minnesota stop, four-way stop, isn't it?
Sure.
Nobody gets everywhere. Everybody's saying, no, you go, no, you go. Right? But yes, yeah, and there are legitimate reasons to be angry.
Sure.
So yes, yes. It's not all just, yeah. Anything else? If not, I invite you to take another deep breath. Let go of anything that's in the back of your mind, right? Just take that deep breath and let's sing together.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now
Once again, I invite you to close your hands, making the tightest fist that you can. Remember that Lent is a time of giving up something. And this season we contemplate what we need to give up in order to let justice roll down, to let justice prevail in our lives, in our church, in our world. And so I invite you this morning to imagine those people and acts that you are finding hard to forgive. Now slowly, ever so slowly, open your hands and let go of the tension there. Imagine instead that cool water is flowing into and over them, rolling down justice, washing us all in the cleansing waters of creation. We come before you, O grace itself, knowing that we hold on to resentment, distancing ourselves by a wall of fear or anger. In doing so, we cut off the lifeblood that flows between us. Forgive us and open us to your refreshing water of life. When we are faced with a choice, help us choose a love that moves us closer to compassion and courage to speak up, to stand up for what is right and for what is good. We lift up prayers for people whose names we know, whose circumstances of joy and challenge are close at hand. We lift up prayers for Linda as she struggles to get well after 2 very serious surgeries. Linda, please know we hold you
in the light of Christ.
We lift up prayers of healing for Scott, who has been through a very difficult time. Scott, please know we
hold you in the light of Christ.
We lift up prayers for the family of Deb, who died from cancer this week. May her family know we hold you in the light of Christ. Prayers for Brad and family on the death of his sister Bridget. Brad and family, please know we hold you
In the light of Christ.
And we lift up prayers for people whose names we do not know, but for whom our hearts break, for whom we hope to offer support. Prayers for mental health recovery. For all those suffering, please know we hold you in the light of Christ. For those who are suffering the brunt of someone else's resentment, please know we hold you in the light of Christ. For those still in recovery from natural disasters, please know we hold you in the light of Christ. And for those being displaced and otherwise affected by wars and conflicts and abuse of power, please know we hold you in the light of Christ. And for each and every one here, as we are challenged to follow in the footsteps of Christ, please know we hold you in the light of Christ. In silence, we open ourselves to pray for all creation, for the things left unnamed, the hurts of which we are unaware, and for the deepest yearnings of our hearts. And we pray together, Creator of all that is, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Once again, we're going to take time to add to the waters of justice by writing words on strips of cloth that will be added to our ever-flowing stream. As we take the offering today, I invite you to write words about your longing for reconciliation and forgiveness. These will become part of the waters of love and justice that we are creating in this Lenten time.
We give thanks.
For the way in which these offerings can help us choose love.
We give thanks.
For the gift of this community bound and working together.
We give thanks.
Would you please rise and let's sing together.
Called as partners in Christ's service, called to ministries of grace, we respond with deep commitment, fresh new lives of faith to trace. May we learn the art of sharing, side by side and friend with friend, equal parts in our caring to fulfill God's chosen end. Christ's example, Christ inspiring, Christ we call to work and worth. Let us follow, never faltering, reconciling folk on earth. Men and women, richer, poorer, all God's people, young and old, blending human skills together, gracious gifts from God unfold. Thus new patterns for Christ's mission in a small or global sense. Help us bear each other's burdens, breaking down each wall or fence. Words of comfort, words of vision, words of challenge said with care, bring new power and strength for action, make us colleagues free and fair. So God grant us for tomorrow grace to order human life, that surround each person's sorrow with a calm that conquers strife. Make us partners in our living, our compassion to increase, messengers of faithless giving, all that confidence and peace.
As counterintuitive as it may seem, let us see the hard work of being family together as a movement toward God's justice in the world. Remember, we have choices. Let yourself be overcome by an unfathomable willingness to make the first move toward reconciliation. I invite you to face one another, and so that you can bless one another with these words. May the song you sing in your heart
The song you sing in your heart
be pleasing to God,
be pleasing to God,
moving you to the passion
moving you to passion
and compassion of Jesus,
and compassion of Jesus,
uplifted by a spirit
lifted by a spirit
that keeps you humming life's tune of